Hey there guys, welcome back to a brand new segment called Prime Crossovers. And what we're going to do here is just basically go over how I create characters, how I've been taught to create characters, things that I've picked up during my, I guess, the span of my life, right? Some of this stuff you guys may know, some of it may be obvious if you guys are into art, and some of it may not be. Some of it may be brand spanking new. So in this very first episode, what we're going to do is get to the very basics. We're going to get to the very start before you start drawing anything, before you start doing anything. This is what I highly recommend you start with. And basically what I've created here is a character creation guide. This was, you know, when I was going to college, this is kind of what the teachers gave me to do as a guide, again, to help build new characters and make it easier. It really gives structure and order, and it keeps you organized, especially if you're doing a new set of characters. Now, in this segment, we're not just going to focus on new characters. We're going to focus on, you know, either pre-existing characters or new characters. But for this specific video, it is going to be focused on new characters. So the first thing you want to do is, as you can see here at the top, the first thing you want to fill out is the character's name, right? So if you're doing a superhero, you kind of want to give the alias, the superhero name, and their civilian name or their secret identity name, right? That would help. Now, if you're doing a transformer or something like that, or maybe a monster creature that doesn't really have a human side or an alias, right? You then want to just give it one name. For example, RC. RC is a name, and it doesn't go any further beyond that. But if we're doing somebody like, let's say, Superman, Superman obviously has their superhero name and then their alter ego as Clark Kent, right? So I would highly recommend putting the character's name. And then you're going to have to figure out, actually, I should have put this before, if is the character male or female, because obviously that's going to, you know, that might change the name. So, you know, maybe do the male, female ahead of it. But I mean, you pretty much know whether you're going to do a male or a female character. I don't think the name is too relevant. I think you probably already have that set in your mind. So, you know, pick out the male or the female. Why is that important? Because it helps determine what the body structure is going to be. Right? When we talk about anatomy, the male body is very different than the female body. Excuse me. The male body tends to be broader at the shoulder and taller, statistically speaking. On average, men are taller than women, and then women seem to have wider hips. They have more of an hourglass shape. When we're looking at the female, or when we're looking at superhero physiques, right? That's tending how you want to go. Also, the female tends to be a little bit shorter, so keep those things in mind, right? When we're designing our character, right? They're not going to be the same height. More likely they won't be the same height. Then you want to get into the age. Why is the age important? Now, you don't have to get into a specific age, like, okay, my character is 25 years old. No, but what I'm saying is, where's their age range? Are they an adult? Are they teen? Are they child? If it's a sub-character, are they elderly? Right? Those things are important. Why? Because, again, it'll help determine the physique of the character. Right? If they're a child, they're going to be small, more than likely non-muscular. If they're a teen, they may have some muscle tone, but still rather on the slim side. But if it's an adult, especially if it's an adult male, and we're talking about superheroes, more than likely they're going to be very muscular, right? So you want to give it that full sense. Now, if it's an average adult, maybe a little bit thinner, but definitely not as thin as a teen, right? And definitely not as small as a child. So that's really important. Then we go into the character type, right? Are they human? Are they animal? Are they an alien? Are they a monster? Are they some type of mythical creature where it's like a mixture of different things? Or are they a robot? Those things are important to put down. Why? Because, again, you just want to know the direction of where your character is going, right? Then when you do that, you look at body type, right? Is the character muscular? Are they athletic? Are they thin? Are they fat? Those are all going to help determine what your character is going to look like, and it also is going to help contribute towards what you're sketching. Now, I know as superhero artists, we tend to just draw everybody muscular, everybody's athletic, and so on and so forth, but that's not the realistic thing when you're creating predominantly sub-characters, right? So you want to go ahead and I would recommend practicing a full range of different body types to be quite honest with you. Because if you box yourself into just one set, it becomes unrealistic, right? Their powers and abilities. Their powers and abilities are pretty important. Why? Because it does help. Number one, it lets you know what the character is, but it's also going to help with either their costume or their overall final look, right? For example, if your character has fire abilities, well, you don't really want to you don't want to give it like electricity style attributes to their costume, right? So having their powers and abilities, written down does kind of help guide you towards how they're going to look at the very end, right? Any specific attributes, anything that's special, right? So if we're doing like maybe a monster, right? Do they have 4 arms versus 2 arms, right? If we're doing some type of an alien, right? Are they a quadruped? Like meaning, are they walking on all 4s, or they're kind of more on the humanoid side where they're standing on 2 legs? Do they have fins? Do they have gills? You want to put those special attributes on there, right? Maybe if it's a human, maybe if it's somebody like, let's say, what's this guy's name? Nick Fury, right? He's got an eye patch, right? So maybe that's an attribute that you put down. Character has an eye patch. Character, let's say if you're doing maybe like a robot, instead of having 5 fingers, character only has 3 fingers or 2 fingers or whatever the case may be, right? You want to put those specific things on there, again, to help guide you while you're doing your character. Now, it's really important to understand when you're designing something, you always start out with a rough sketch. And this boils down into 2D versus 3D. I'm kind of old school when it comes to this, so maybe there's a new way to do things. I don't know. I'm just giving you guys how I was taught. But everything starts on with pencil and paper. If you're using a tablet, then obviously you're digital, but it starts out with a concept, right? You want to do your rough sketches. After you do your rough sketches, what you're going to do is you want to try and do an array of different styles, positions, etc., etc. And then you want to start playing around with it little by little, making minor changes, alterations, and so on and so forth, until you get something that you kind of like. Now, in this particular video that I'm showing you right here, right now, there's a particular artist. I will include his name. I don't have it off the top of my head. But what he's doing is coming up with designs on movie-style Transformer type figures, or characters, excuse me. And as you can see here, he's doing an array of different characters. He's doing pretty quick, pretty fast. It might take you some practice to get to this level. The point, I don't want you to focus on how quick he's doing it. I just want you to focus on what he's doing. Look how many different variations of a character he's doing until he kind of boils down his maybe, top 5 picks, right? And then from your top 5 or your top 3 or whatever the case may be, you start hashing that out, adding a little bit more detail and so on and so forth. So once you're happy with either the pose or the details you want, then you can go on from doing sketches to doing drafts. Now, in this particular example that I'm showing you guys here, now this is off of the Prime animated how to draw book. It's a fun little book that I picked up a couple of years ago. And what they teach you here is you're going to go through your stick figure, then you're going to go to your basic shapes, then you're going to add more form, and then you're going to go basically almost finalized as far as your pencil and ink, and then you get into finally doing the colors, right? That's pretty much how you want your flow to go when you're creating a brand new character, right? But again, you want to hash out a multitude of different ideas or designs before you lock yourself into just one, because if you just lock yourself into one, you start work on it halfway, you might not like a lot of it and you have to start all over or so on and so forth. So I strongly recommend using a couple of different designs, at least 5, and then choosing the ones that you like the most, hashing each one out little by little. Now, when you do your stick figure design and you start to add your basic shape, remember in 2D, your basic shapes are going to be your circles, your squares, your rectangles, your pyramids, etc., and you start to give it form. When it comes to 3D, right, those basic 2D shapes now become 3-dimensional. Instead of having a triangle, you have a pyramid. Instead of having a circle, you have a sphere. Instead of having a square or a rectangle, you could either have a cube or you can have a cylinder, depending on what it is. So I want you guys to understand the difference between 2D and 3D design. You probably got a good grasp based on technology and the times that we live in, but it's good to explain. Now, once you have your character finalized on a 2D level, if you're technical enough, you can, do a technical character sheet where you pose your character in a front view, in a side view, and a back view, right? Now, if you're doing some type of vehicle, right, then you would want a front view, a side view, and a top view, right? So a little bit different depending on what you're modeling out in 3D. But if you're not a technical person and you don't have like a blueprint, if you will, then you got to eyeball things, right? And that becomes a little bit tricky. It just takes a little bit longer time versus having a guide that you can go by, but it still can be achieved. It can be done nonetheless. So what we're going to do is in our next video, I'm going to show you how I go from a design to final concept of a character design. And what we're going to take a look at is how I have designed Transformers Prime Inferno for the Dinobots Unleashed film. So that's going to be the next video. We'll take it from there. We'll start out really basic. I'll show you again all the steps that I go through, all the steps that I took, and then eventually on the next video after that, we will start doing our 3D designs, and then we will start to model out the character. So we can take it from, again, concept all the way to final 3D animated. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. That's all I have in this video. Thank you guys so much for joining in. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace out till all are one.